Hello, Scott. How are you?
I'm great. Still recovering from the information overload of earlier. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Yeah. Hopefully, this presentation will not be information overload, but
we've had a break. But I'm in Sad Sati, so I really needed Camilla's lecture. I mean, I've got years of it ahead of me. Oh, you're muted.
Scott, my started this February, so I have all of it ahead of me. Mine just started like 7-8 months back, so we'll see.
You have it too?
Yeah. Mine started in February.
I think where's your moon in Jyotish chart?
25 Aquarius.
Yeah, like mine's like 20 or 25 Aquarius. Yeah. I'll go. I'll check. Oh my God, we can form a support group.
So mine is like 25-16, and after Komilla ji's session, I was checking. In 2024, it will station at 25-12.
No.
And mine is 25-16. So it's like right. It will station.
Okay. We expect you to keep a journal and write a book, right? Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to 2024. You'll see what happens,
Well, listen. I'm my son's being hit by the eclipse in May, so maybe, who knows, right? It's one thing after another. What fun! Yes.
Yeah, it's June. I'm looking at it right now. So, June 29, 2024. It is stationed right on top of my home.
I can't believe that. Oh my God.
Saurabh bhai.
Ji.
Yeah, what about the third cycle of Saturn? What do you think about the third cycle? Because I am also in Purva Bhadrapada, Meen Rashi, and it starts in second. Sarasati part second will be start on 24th February 2025, and my moon is on 3 degree, and the Saturn is also coming the same degree on February on April 24th, like something with the same date on 3. But what I noticed that before, as the Komilla said about the 25th nakshatra of Mansa, I think it is Saturn is on 0 degree on 29th March 2025. So that will be the crucial part for 1 month, almost, maybe just to be aware.
I think we should probably form a study group and talk about it separately, right? I mean, there are so many of us who are probably in the similar kind of situation. So let's talk about it. Let's do a session. I would say.
Yeah, whatever you allow, that's just it's up to you. Just whatever you do, everybody's ready for that, because this is the second cycle, and we learn all lessons in up to second cycle. So third cycle maybe looks like a more relaxing or something, or it's look like everybody's to be aware. We know that, but and everybody is disciplined almost like that. But what about the third cycle? Has some specific, like something to be relaxation or a little bit more less affected or something?
Let's talk about it outside.
Whatever you suggest. It's just for a learning only.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Meenakshi can probably set up something that would be great.
Saurabh, you will be doing mantra today. Rani ji will.
I'm here, Meenakshi.
Oh,
I finished the other meeting.
thank you, Rani ji.
Just in time, actually. So, but Saurabh ji, you can go. No problem.
No, that's okay. We want your presence. So I was thinking that you are not joining.
It's an interesting talk. I didn't want to miss, but I had another meeting. But it got over, so I jumped on.
Oh, lovely. So Anuji, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Namaste.
Namaste. Do you like to switch on your video, Anu?
Yes.
So it's a very interesting topic. So we will have people also on our YouTube to be able to hear you. So what we will get started. Yeah. So let's start with the mantra. Usually, Anu, we do the mantra and then we start the session. So
If
we
you want
will
to start
follow
recording,
that. Yeah, we'll
you can
start.
do
So Rani ji, to you.
Yeah. Oh. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhunatu. Saha Viryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Thank you, Rani ji. So now, before we get started, I would like to do the screen share and talk a little bit about Anu, as I know. So here we go. I would like to go to my. Okay, and now I'll share the screen once again. Can you see my pages? Yep, good. So for Anuradha Goel, when I'm starting and when I'm looking through, she is a very public speaker, I will say, a well-known figure in media. So on the right hand side, if you look, she has many followers. Either it's like say on the Facebook or Twitter, and she's known for, again, I will say, several stuff. So as I have known in the past that she was an engineer working for Infosys, then she tracked into a different area, and she became, I will say, a big social icon, at the same time public speaker in media, famous for her books which she has written, very famous for the book reviews, many reviews, like I think 400 plus books she has written in the past. If you go to Twitter, you will find a follower list. Even the David Frawley is the follower for Anuradha Goel ji. So very impressive profile for her. She has the today when we spoke about coming into the Jyotish webinar, so she has an interest, and where she talks about how the Indian heritage and the Jyotish is related, and there are knowledge which she has about the Jyotish. That's where the Jyotish audience wants to hear from her where and how she thinks that Jyotish has that lineage which we are not aware with. So with that, I would like to pass it over to Anuji to be able to speak more about from her side, because there will be pieces which I do not know much. So I would like to her to talk about a little bit more about her own work to us. So Anuji, to you.
Namaste, and thank you very much, Saurabh and Meenakshi, for inviting me to this. I am not really an astrologer. I have studied astrology only to understand India. So to that extent, but that's a perspective that not many people have. So I thought I'll share that with you. Let me just start by sharing my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a traveler, basically. I run a popular travel blog. Like Meenakshi said, Saurabh and I used to be colleagues once upon a time in Infosys. I don't know how, but it has to be some stroke of destiny that I'm doing what I'm doing today. Today, my identity is primarily that of a writer, speaker, somebody who shares snippets of knowledge that I have on social media and on my blog, through my newspaper columns or through my books. Honestly, I'm not really qualified to, technically qualified to talk about these things. Whatever I know is what I know through my own experience of walking across India, traveling across India, reading the scriptures firsthand. Some of them I have read, some of them I'm reading at the moment. I'll talk about them as we go ahead. So this is going to be a Jyotish Yatra as I have discovered and as I have. Interestingly, I did not study Jyotish to become a Jyotishi or to become an astrologer. I studied Jyotish because as I started reading Indian scriptures, it became impossible to understand them without understanding astrology. I started 6 years back. Every Navratri, I pick up one Sanskrit text to read as my next 1 year target. And I started with Ramcharitmanas, which had a bit of astrology, but it didn't come in my way of reading the text. But when I reached texts like Devi Bhagavad Puran and Brahmand Puran in particular, it became nearly impossible to understand without understanding the planets, without understanding the inherent nature of planets and how they map to our lives. So that's when I pulled up the astrology texts, and of course, a lot of you astrologers who have put out a lot of knowledge out there on YouTube and in a public domain. That helped a lot. As a beginner, that helped a lot. And then I did study some of the Jyotish texts to understand the nature of planets, their impact on us. I can just barely read a chart, or understand a chart. So when a learned Jyotish speaks about it, I do understand all that they are speaking, but I'm not a trained astrologer under a guru or somebody. So, but having said that, I have seen the mapping of that across India. Some of that I am going to share based on the work that I have done. What I would request all of you is to ask any questions that you may have. I may not have answers to your questions, but your questions will help me research further. So please do keep sharing all your questions, no matter how related or unrelated they look. And I'm perfectly okay if you interrupt me. That keeps it interactive. I don't feel I'm talking to a wall. So I'll start by talking a bit about myself. So I run this travel blog called Indie Tales. I've been writing it since 2004, since I was still working or employed. And today we have more than 1,000 stories of travel logs, but a lot of deep down research into Indian Tirtha Sthalas. So last 5-6 years or about 8 years, I've been researching about the Tirtha Sthalas. I've been doing a lot of pilgrim yatras. I've been researching on the ancient cities of India and documenting them. So you'll find a lot of yatras there. And as you know, most of these yatras are entangled with astrology in some way or the other. So it's India's only bilingual travel blog. So we publish both in English and Hindi. Then I have my personal website where I write about innovation. Incidentally, business innovation is what my core competency is. My first book was on business innovation, and the rest of the books have been about travel and spirituality and India, somewhere a melange of that. So put together, we get about 5 million impressions per month. We have a reader base of 100,000 plus on our blog. We have a total followership of more than 600,000 on social media across all the platforms. Indica Yatra is a conference that I curated in 2019, where we tried to revive the Indian travel traditions. The way travel industry is organized today, it is primarily based on the Thomas Cook model that was invented somewhere in the West in the 18th century or something like that. And we keep forgetting that we have very, very long-standing travel traditions of yatra, pretty much inbuilt into our life system, into our varnashram system. So we try to revive that. We try to document the Sthala Puranas of different Sthalas or different ancient places of India. Hopefully, after the pandemic is behind us, I'll try to revive it and do something about it again. I am into Limca Book of Records for reviewing maximum number of books. I think I've reviewed now more than 700 books, which is a record. I have a podcast called Detours with Anuradha Goel. In Hindi, it is still to take off. So this is a bit about my digital identity. I'm pretty much Googleable. If you Google, you'll find most of this stuff. These are my books. I'll take just a minute to explain each book. The first book is called The Mouse Charmers. It was published way back in 2014 by Penguin. It is about the digital companies of India, pioneering digital companies of India. So it has business stories of the likes of Flipkart and Make My Trip and Zomato, and when they were not this big. The second book is Lotus in the Stone. This is one book I would urge all of you to read, because this is getting me a lot of emotional response from the readers. This is about sacred journeys in eternal India. It is all about my sacred journeys in India. The third one, Navratri, that you see is my latest book, actually, which I have co-edited with Dr. Vivek Debroy, and we've covered 16 different kshetras of India, how Navratri is celebrated. Incidentally, Navratri is a festival that is celebrated across India. In fact, across the whole of India, it is still celebrated in Pakistan and Nepal and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. But every community thinks only they celebrate and nobody else does. So we've documented 16 different traditions, and there is a tradition of astrology, which I will talk about as we go ahead. The bottom three books are about temples. I write a lot about temples. So the three books are about two different categories of temples, very, very unusual temples, and the cave temples, which are the earliest forms of temples. The book on the top right that you see is Ayodhya Mahatmya. That's one of my most scholarly works, if I can say. It's a translation of Ayodhya Mahatmya from Skanda Puran in very easy to read English. It's like a 2,000-year-old Lonely Planet guide to Ayodhya. In this, we've recreated the map of Ayodhya as it was described in Skanda Puran, and I have spent a lot of time in the city to recreate that map. I'm going to share that map with you. It's a part of the book. So if you download the book, you can find the map, but I'm going to share it as part of this presentation. So this is a snapshot of my work, which is in public domain in some form and shape, just to give you an idea of where all the content for today's presentation is coming from. It's coming from all of these. Astrology primarily is, as I understand it, is based on this principle of Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, or Yatha Brahmande Tatha Pinde, which means the microcosm and the macrocosm replicate. At every step, there is a replication, which is very well captured in this triangle. I wish I could draw it. I don't have a whiteboard, but if you really draw it, and I'm sure all of you know about it, that whatever is in the macrocosm keeps repeating or replicating itself in the microcosm. So when we look at the planetary motion and we try to map that motion into our lives, that becomes astrology. There is a mapping on the lines of our palms. That is also one kind of mapping. Different people have different ways of studying. It depends on what you master. Some people master reading the face, some people master reading the palm, some people master reading your foot. I remember when I was a kid, one of my aunts, my bua, lives in Rishikesh, and they used to have a doctor, a Tibetan doctor, and she could just look at your urine and tell what all is wrong with your body. But it's a matter of what you master. Everything is reflected in everything. So whatever is present, you can pick up any part of universe and you will find the whole universe within it. So it's a matter of what we can master, what we can observe, and what we can derive out of it, what we master. So Jyotish is one of them in my opinion. So this is a very Indic representation of Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. So that's the basic principle. Now, this mapping exists at different levels. It exists on our body level, and that's what we are most concerned about when we talk about astrology. But this also gets replicated on the spaces. So it gets replicated at the level of Earth, at the level of cities, at the level of countries. So I'm sure you've heard of this shlok. It's called Ayodhya Mathura Maya Kashi Kanchi Avantika Pura Dwaravati Chaiva Sapteta Mokshadayika. So this shlok talks about the 7 Mokshadaini cities of India. These cities are called Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya. Maya is the ancient name of Haridwar. Haridwar is the place where Ganga enters the plains, or they say she enters from Devabhumi to Manushyalok. So it comes from the land of the Devatas to our land. So that's why it's also called Ganga Dwar. But the ancient name is Maya, named after the presiding goddess of that land, which is Maya. Kashi, we all know, is Varanasi. Kanchi is Kanchipuram. Avantika is Ujjain, the city of Mahakal, which is absolutely important to astrology because that was the zero meridian. The exact spot where the Mahakal temple is was the zero meridian for all possible calculations of astrology and otherwise for any time calculations as well. In fact, even today, when you visit Mahakal temple, if you go to the temples around it, you will find a temple called Kalpeshwar Mahadev temple, which belongs to the Kalpa. Kalpa is a day of the Brahma, and that's the calculation. That's the first calculation. So even when we do a Sankalp, we talk about the current Kalpa is called Shvetavaraha Kalpa. So the first thing we say is the Shvetavaraha Kalpa. So there is a Kalpeshwar Mahadev temple. In fact, just 2 weeks back, I was in Kashi and I discovered a temple called Kali Yugeshwar temple, a temple which it is believed was set up by the Kali himself, and it's a Shivling which belongs to this era, and they say it will remain till the Kali Yuga remains. So we have these Shivalingas who are not just the representative of the Lord Shiva, but they are also representative of his manifestation in terms of time, and the time that we use to calculate a lot of things, and that is the basis of all the calculations, including astronomical and astrological calculations. Anyway, then the final one is called Puri Dwaravati, which is Dwaraka. And so these 7 cities are considered the most pious cities or most sacred cities. But if you really look at it, these are the 7 oldest living cities in the world, not just India. They are the oldest living cities in the world. They have a lot of spiritual significance. A lot of avatars are associated with this. Ayodhya belongs to Vishnu. It's supposed to be the Vishnu's first Adi city, the first city of Vishnu. Mathura was set up by Shatrughan, the youngest brother of Sri Ram, and it is the city where Krishna chose to take birth. Maya, or Haridwar, or a locality in Haridwar called Kanakhal, is the place where the incident of Sati took place, where it was the place of Daksha, where the Daksha Yagya took place. Kashi, of course, is the city of Shiva. Kanchi is the city of Devi, Kamakshi. So it is a city which belongs to her. Everybody else can stay there, but it's her city. Avantika, Ujjain is Mahakal, and Dwaraka again belongs to Krishna. It was reset up instead by Krishna. So how do they map? So if you read texts, you will see that this is how it maps. These 7 cities map to our 7 chakras, and they map in the same sequence. Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya, Kashi, Kanchi, Avantika, Puri, Dwaravati. So if you are actually doing the yatra of these 7, you are actually doing the yatra of the 7 chakras. And it is possible that, a lot of you who are into predictive astrology, if there is a problem at a certain chakra, then probably doing a yatra of that city would make a difference. I don't know about that part, but I know that the texts say that this is how the cities map to our chakras. So there is a mapping between the body and the space that we live in, or the Varsha that we live in, which is Bharat Varsha that we live in. There is a mapping that you can create. So if you can think of it as a prism, or think of it as a pyramid, then at every level, if you take a cross section, then at every level the things are replicating. So this is how it replicates in terms of a sacred geography.
Anuradha
ji.
So the Puri over here, it says Puri Dwaravati. So,
ji.
But in the chakras, there is no Puri.
No, there is no Puri. Puri refers to the word, Puri means city.
Oh, okay. And
okay, it's not Jagannath Puri wala Puri.
Okay,
no.
okay.
No, it's Dwara. Puri refers to the city.
City.
So Dwaravati is Dwaraka. And it's very interesting that Dwaraka is at the top, at the Sahasrara chakra. And it's actually called Dwar because it's one of the Dwars through which we, it's an external Dwar in our city, in our Puri. If you think of this body as a Puri, then that's one of the Dwars. And that city is called Dwaravati.
Yeah, the Navadwari, yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. Navadwari Ayodhya is also called Navadwari. So within these cities, again, this replication happens. But that has not really been studied. So what I have found is also very, very sporadic at the moment. I'm just joining the dots and connecting a lot of things. All these things need to be studied in a very, very structured way.
Yes, true.
Anyway, I'm going to restrict myself. So out of these 7, I'll talk about Ayodhya because that's a city that I've studied in a structured manner. And this is me in the streets of Ayodhya. And there's a very interesting story about this street. These streets are called a Paglat Gali. And it is believed that if mentally ill people are left in these streets, they get cured. You just simply leave them in these streets. And when I was visiting and I was talking to people, they said, yes, till about 20, 25 years back also, people would leave a lot of mentally sick people in these streets and they would all get cured. So, and these are energies. We have a temple called Chottanikara in Kerala, very close to Cochin, or in fact, right outskirts of Cochin, where people still, if you still visit the temple, it is full of people with mental issues, and they say in 43 days they all get treated. So we do have such spaces which have these kind of problems. But anyway, coming back to me, so there is a huge project by Ayodhya Shodh Sansthan, which is a global encyclopedia of Ramayana. I'm a member of that. So as part of that, I worked on this, translating this. So if you look at the cover, we've recreated the city of Ayodhya. So you see a fish, and Ayodhya is in the shape of a fish. It's called Matsyakar. It's in the shape of a fish, and we've captured a lot of elements. So I'm going to talk about Ayodhya from as it is described in Ayodhya Mahatmya. This is the map that we have recreated. So this is Saryu River, which is a river that comes from Lake Mansarovar in the Himalayas. It comes from the Kumaon Hills, and then it comes into the plains, and downstream it goes and merges with Ganga. So it becomes a tributary of Ganga. But this is where it very clearly defines where is Ayodhya. A lot of people keep contesting that this is not the real Ayodhya. But the real Ayodhya is very well defined in Skanda Puran. It says where Ayodhya lies on Saryu between the confluences where it meets the Gharghara River and the Tamasa River. So Tamasa is a small river that you see at the bottom of the map, and Saryu is this big river. And on the banks of Tamsa were all the ashrams of the Rishi. It's like the outskirts of the city, and there were all the ashrams here. And this is the city. And if you see these blue spots, these are all the kunds, or these are all the step wells or step wells or some kind of water bodies. And you'll be surprised that there is a perennial river. In fact, there are 3 perennial rivers that would have flown through this city. And still the city is dotted with so many kunds. I counted 50 plus kunds, and when I went and we searched for it, we could find most of them. Some of them do not exist as kunds. I mean, there's some college has been built or something else has been built, but they exist in some form on Shiv. So why so many kunds was my question. And then when I started reading Skanda Puran, I found that each of these kunds is associated either with an avatara or some act of an avatara or some deity, and is meant to take care of something. So let me talk about some of them. So Saryu, these are pictures from the Saryu bank in Ayodhya. So Saryu remains the biggest Teerth. In any Teerthal, in any of the Teerthalas that you go, the biggest Teertha is the water body. When you go to Kashi, Ganga is the most important Teertha, even more important than any temple. Similarly, when you go to, let's say, Ujjain, Shipra is the important Teertha. So the important Teertha is the water body. So Saryu remains the most important Teertha. The picture on the right that you see is the Ram Ki Paidi. This is where the Deepotsav now takes place. So all the lovely pictures of Diwali that you see are from this ghat. And a regular Saryu Aarti takes place in the evening every day. But this is a recent phenomena. It was not something that was done traditionally. This is called Gopratar Teerth. This is little away from the main city. This is the place where they say that Sri Ram left his body. So this is where he entered into Saryu. He took Jal Samadhi, or he entered into Saryu and left his body. So this place becomes important because this is from where Sri Ram went to the Swarga. So this is called Gopratar Teerth. Then there are other Teerths. The place where Lakshman left his body is called Sahasradhara, because the thousands of Naga hoods came to receive him. He was an avatar of Sheshnag. Then there is Swargdwar, there is Swarna Khani, and there is Sambhed Teerth. Sambhed is the place where the Saryu and Gharghara rivers meet. So this is the confluence, and as we know, any confluence, whether it's the confluence of 2 rivers or the confluence of a river with the sea, is always considered very, very sacred. These are some of the important Teerthas. Now let me talk about some of the Teerthas which are associated with astrology. There is a Kund called Brihaspati Kund, and Skanda Puran says that if your Guru is afflicted in Gochar, then you should go and you should go there with the golden murti of Guru and do an Anushtan, and you should take a dip in that, and you should do, and the normal things that are suggested at any Teertha is to take a snan and to do dan. So you give the dan, and dan is usually prescribed. This is specifically said that you should be going there in the month of Bhadrapad, and on Thursdays is good. And a Bhadrapad or Thursday of Bhadrapad is excellent to go there and do a bath, take a bath. Then there is something called Ghoshark Kund. Now, Ghoshark was a king in the Ikshvaku dynasty, the same dynasty that Sri Ram belonged to, and the same dynasty that ruled from Ayodhya for many, many generations. Now, Ghoshark had a problem. He was a great king, but he had a a problem on his hands, on his skin. He had a skin problem. So one day he had gone to the jungles for shikar, for hunting, and he was lost. And he was very thirsty, and he was tired, and he was thirsty. And so he kept looking for water, and suddenly he found this place where a lot of sadhus were doing their sadhana, a lot of saints were doing their sadhana. So he entered the kund and he did it was a Sunday, so he did the Surya Aradhana, and there's a beautiful stuti, Surya stuti along with it. He did the stuti, and the Surya Bhagwan appeared before him, and he said, ask, as usual, he said, ask me for a boon. And Ghoshak said, all I want is that you should stay here forever and take care of all the problems of Ayodhya Vasis and the visitors who come here. So, so this Ghoshak Kund was set up, and there is a Surya Murti there. But what is more important is that any Sunday that falls on a Saptami, both the days that belongs to Sun, Saptami and Sunday. So Sunday that falls on a Saptami is important here. Then there is a very interesting kund called Rati Kusum Ayudh Kund. Kusum Ayudh is another name of Manmat, or what's the more common name of Rati and Kamadev. Kamadev. So Kusum Ayudh, because his Ayudh was Kusum, or flowers. Kusum is flowers and Ayudh is weapon. So flowers were his weapons. So he's called Kusum Ayudh. So Rati Kusum Ayudh Kund is a twin kund actually. And they say that couples should do a snan here together, probably and they will become like Rati and Kamadev. There is an Urvashi Kund. I have not put it here on the slide, but there is an Urvashi Kund where you can go and you become beautiful. There is Dhanyaksh Kund where you can get your body can become fragrant. So it's a story of a yaksha who had everything, who was like a yaksha protecting the wealth of the kings of Ayodhya, but due to some reason his body had foul smell. So he did his tapasya, and when the God appeared for him, he said, all I want is that my body should become fragrant. And so there is a kund which makes your body fragrant. There is Yogini Kund, which is famous for giving you siddhis. Now, of course, all these kunds at the present moment are not in a condition where either they have water or you can have a bath there. But I hope that when they are reviving Ayodhya, they will revive all the kunds that are there, and because that will make Ayodhya a very, very living, vibrant city full of tirthas. But I'm just sharing some which to me seemed relevant to astrology. I'll talk about this. This is very, very interesting. I don't know how many of you have heard, and I would like to know if you know about Chandra Sahasrara. Now, this is a vrat which is described in great detail in Skanda Puran. This is a vrat that you do when you have seen 1,000 Purnimas. If you calculate, it roughly comes to about 83 years, 4 months, something like this. So when you have seen Sahasra Chandras, when you have seen 1,000 moons, that's when you go there, and you at a particular place, there's a place which was set by, they said the moon himself had visited Ayodhya at some point in time, and he did this, and since then it's a tradition to do it. So it is recommended that when you attain that age, which means you've lived well, you've lived a good life, you had your Purnayu, and that's when you go and do this vrat for Chandra. And there's a long description of what all you should do, what mantras should you read, but the number 16 is very important. 16, as we know, there are 16 kalas of Chandra. So the minimum you have to do is create 16 murtis of Chandra. either in silver, or there's a specification of what all things you can use. And then you do an anushthan, you do a vrat, you feed everybody. This is a vrat that you do with family. You feed your family, you go there with your family. It's probably a kind of celebration of living a long life well. So there's a whole anushthan described for this for Chandra. In fact, I have not come across too many Chandra anusthans apart from this. I don't know if it is still done, but it is very well described. It won't take long to restart these kind of things. Then these two tirthas, Pishach Mochan Tirtha and Rin Mochan Tirtha, are found in every Tirthasthala, including Ayodhya, including Kashi, including Dwarka, every city. Pishach Mochan basically helps you get rid of all kinds of pishachas, which means all kinds of.
Is there something going in your room?
And if Rin Mochan actually talks about getting rid of your debts, we know there are 3 types of rins, or there are many types of rins. Different scriptures describe them in different ways. So there is Dev Rin, there is Pitri Rin, there is Guru Rin, so there are 3-4 different kinds of rin. So most of the times these days when people look at Rin Mochan, they think of getting rid of your loans. No, it doesn't talk about getting rid of your loans. It talks about the rin that we owe to the people in whose lineage we've taken birth. It could be the lineage of our parents. It could be the lineage of the deities, the family deities, Kul Devatas, or it could be the lineage of our gurus. So those are the rin. So if you visit these tirthas, those rins are taken care of. Similarly, Pishach Mochan would mean any kind of pishach that you may be afflicted with, any kind of pretas who may be troubling you can be taken care of. And these are 2 tirthas that I found in every tirthala that I visited. Now, what is interesting is that I have a long list of, I've created a calendar for Ayodhya of the yatras. And very interestingly, during British era, they actually put these kind of stones outside every tirthasthala. So you see here, this talks about Bharat Yatra Stambh, which means the Bharat Yatra starts from here. This is outside a place called Nandigram. It's even today, it's outside the city of Ayodhya. And this is the place where Bharat lived when Sri Ram was on Banvas, was in exile for 14 years. So he did not live inside the city of Ayodhya. He lived outside in a small hut. And so there is a yatra that happens that. But what is more important from your perspective is this Marg Shirsh Krishna Tritya. So it says, the yatra starts in the month of Margshirsh on the Krishna Tritya, which actually should be day after, interestingly. I mean, I didn't think of it, but it should be day after. So this is how all the tirthas in Ayodhya are mapped. Every tirtha has a date, a defined date on which the yatra happens, and a defined path in which the yatra happens. So for example, this is a old Bilvahari temple. It says Vaishakh Amavasya. So on the month of Vaishakh, on the Amavasya is the annual yatra of this temple that happens. Every temple of the city is mapped, and it is pretty much mapped on the Skanda Purana. I'll just show you if any of you are interested. I'll just walk you through that. But very interesting that we talk about pilgrimage, all the Mahatmas talk about all the pilgrimage places, but in the end they talk about 7 Manas Tirthas. And this, I found it very interesting because in astrology also you talk about all kinds of remedies, people jump onto you guys when you say this remedy, that remedy, but ultimately these are the remedies you need. These are the ultimate 7 manas tirthas, which is Satya Tirtha, which is truthfulness, Kshama, which is forgiveness, Indriya Nigraha, which is control of your senses, then Sarva Bhuta Daya Tirtha, which means compassion for everybody, every living being, not just humans. Gyan Tirtha, knowledge, and Tapa Tirtha, which is tapasya. So these 7 tirthas, is very interesting. The whole Mahatmya goes on and on describing every small little place, its Mahatmya, what you should do, what you should give away in charity, who should you give it away, what time you should give it away, everything in detail. And towards the end, it says, if you have this 7 manas tirath, you need not go anywhere. You can be wherever you are, and you become the tirtha yourself. And in the lokachar, in the common parlance, they say man changa to kathati mein ganga, which means if your heart is good, if your intentions are good, then the Ganga flows within you. You don't really need to go to the Ganga, which is outside. So, and I thought even in astrology, you say that if your karma is good, you need not do anything. You can just do whatever you are doing rightly. This is a picture of Dev Deepavali. I happened to be there a fortnight back in Kashi to attend this festival. And what I learned is that it's the Kartik Mas, sun is debilitated, and it's Amavasya, and that is the day we do Deepdan, which means the Agni in the universe is generally low. The sun is at its weakest, and on the day when moon, this is for Diwali. It's not for Dev Deepavali, because Dev Deepavali happens on a Purnima, but on Diwali, you do Deepdan, or you light up, you add the Agni. So everything is so linked. If the Chhat Puja that happens 6 days after Diwali is actually worshipping the sun when it is just coming out of its debilitation, or when it is just coming out of its lowest point. So if you really look at it, the nakshatras and everything is well defined, but if you really look at it, if you look at the cycle of sun in a year, and if you look when it is going from debilitation to exaltation and from exaltation to debilitation, so this is the time when it has just started moving towards its exaltation, and that's when we do Chhat Puja. In all of our festivals, all festivals can be mapped astrologically this way. I have just taken the example of 2, but there's a lot of research that needs to be done to document festivals in this manner. Now let me take you to some of the temples where I found some astrological relevance. Is there any question that I can take till now? Because I'm now moving into something which is mostly visual. Okay. So this is a temple in Goa. This is a place where I live. This is the temple of Mahalasa Narayani temple. Now, this is the temple that belongs to the Mohini avatar of Vishnu. You know, Mohini avatar, which he took during the Sagar Manthan when he was distributing the Amrit. Now, if you remember, Rahu and Ketu, Swar Bhanu, as he was called, he took the nectar and he ran. And when he ran, because he was now immortal, he could not be killed. So he ran around, and he was a devastating force. He ran around, destroying everything that came in his way. So to control him, Vishnu as Mohini took him under his feet. So this is a temple dedicated to that moment where Rahu is brought under control by Vishnu and in his Mohini avatar. So it's called Mahalsa Narayani here. And according to some of the readings that I have done, this is where a lot of Rahu remedies can be done. Although locally, when I spoke to the priest, he was not aware of it. There is a Chauncet Yogini temple in the complex. There are a few other temples. This is a temple that has been recreated recently. It was destroyed by the Portuguese and moved the hinterlands. So the actual practicing temple is somewhere. So it's a kind of displaced temple and recreated temple. So a lot of history is lost. But as per my readings of the scriptures, this is a place where a lot of Rahu remedies can be done, because this is where the Devi brought Rahu under her control. Sorry, this is, while talking about Rahu, this is the Rahu Vigraha in Odisha, in the Konark temple. So if you see, he's holding two moons in his hands. Now, a lot of people asked, why does he hold two moons? He's actually representing Amavasya. So on Amavasya, either side, you have moon in this shape. So on the Chaturdashi and on the new moon day, this is how the moon looks like, facing opposite side. So this, while this is Rahu, this is also a representation of the Amavasya. This is a Vigraha of Mahalakshmi in Kolhapur in Maharashtra. Now for 3 days, they celebrate a festival called Kiranotsav. Kiran means the sun rays. And these are the 3 days when the sun rays, this is a temple which is very narrow, and when you go in, there is no sunlight that hits the temple at any point in time. When you visit it, you can see that there is no way sunlight can enter it. But it has been designed in such a way that for 3 days in the year, twice for 3 days in the year, the sun touches the deity. On day 1, it touches her feet. On day 2, it touches her middle body. And on day 3, it touches the whole body. I didn't use the pictures because I didn't have the copyright of those pictures. But if you go and Google, you will find those pictures where the whole Vigraha is lit up with sunlight. It's an engineering marvel, but what we need to understand is that our temples were absolutely aligned to the motion of planets in the sky. They were so well aligned that they could have aligned it to keep track of time, to keep track of the motion, or they could have aligned for their ritual calendar, for their worship calendars, or to actually make the deities meet, because this is the time when sun actually meets the deity for 3 days. I don't know, not many people know. We've kind of lost this linkage, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to revive it. This, I'm sure many of you know about this temple. This is Vidya Shankar temple in Sringeri in Karnataka. This is where the first peeth of Adi Shankaracharya is, Sringeri Peeth, Sharda Peeth. And this temple has 12 pillars inside it. So this is where you enter the temple. And when you enter the temple, right here on your left is the pillar of Aries, and then you move around the temple and you come back here, and somewhere here there's a pillar of Pisces. So all the 12 zodiac signs have 12 pillars in this. Now having pillars is no big deal. The pillars have all the iconography of the sign, all that is fine. But what is interesting, if you look at it, there is only this much of opening here and an opening here on either side. So these 3 openings. But this temple is so designed that the first rays of the sun fall on the pillar in which the sun is. So today, if the sun is in Scorpio, or is it in Dhanu? It should be in Scorpio.
It's in Scorpio.
Yeah, it's in Scorpio. So the first rays of sun will fall on the pillar of Scorpio. When I visited it in end December, and I could see that the sun rays were falling on Dhanu, on Sagittarius. And this is, to me, not just brilliant engineering, but it's a great way of mapping the sky on this temple. Not a small temple, but again, not a very big temple. This is absolutely incredible. And then these are, this is at Jantar Mantar in Jaipur, but these kind of Jantar Mantars exist in Delhi, in Ujjain, in Kashi, and in one more place, Mathura, five places. And in Jaipur, it's in probably the best kept state. So if you ever visit Jaipur, I would advise you to spend at least half a day. As astrologers, you would love it. You can see the mapping of sky using these small instruments. Now, this is called Samrat Yantra, and you can measure time as per the local latitude and longitude to the precision of about 2 seconds or less than 2 seconds. Oh, Satya Bandhuji Shringe. Yes, Satya Bandhuji. Yes. Every Devi temple has a Shri Yantra. Sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not, but every Devi temple has a Shri Yantra. This instrument, it looks like a plate, but it has all the nakshatras. It has all the nakshatras mapped onto it. And I remember when I was visiting there, and I told the guide to find my name because I'm named after a nakshatra. He just laughed. He said, "How do you expect your name to be there?" I said, "No, you find it." And he actually found it. So I have a picture of that. So it's a very, very interesting place. There are instruments. I'll show you some more pictures. I have a detailed post on this. On each of these instruments, there's a detailed post on In Details that you can read. It's called Kapali Anthra. And if you see, there's a small hanging piece. The shadow of this piece gives you all possible calculations. It's called Kapali Anthra. This is a picture from Goa on a river bank. This labyrinth is probably one of the oldest known labyrinths in the world. It's on a river bank, and it still gets submerged for the better part of the year. But when it is visible, this is how it looks. A lot of tribal people still go and stand in it and worship it, but nobody really knows what it is. My interpretation is that this is one of the oldest or the earliest forms of observatories to observe the sky, because these lines can tell you where using shadows of the sun, you can potentially tell what is where. In fact, there is a very well-defined space for the person who's observing to stand. So you don't just stand randomly anywhere, you stand at a particular place and observe. Okay, so now coming to, while doing the book on Navratri, I came out on this Panchang. Now I'm going to talk about Lokachar, how astrology exists in the Lokachar or in the folk traditions. There is something called Panchang Shravan Mahatmya. So it says every year at the beginning of the year, you should listen to the Panchang, which means the yearly Panchang. So in Andhra Pradesh, even today, the chief minister on the first tithi of Chaitra, Chaitra Shukla Pratma Pratipada, they have a formal function where Panchang is chanted and Panchang is heard by everybody, which means basically the priest will come and tell you what the year holds, or what are the predictions for the next year. Kashmir has a tradition of giving Panchang to children in a thali. They have something called Navagraha Thali, and they have a tradition of giving it to children. And so making it, so Panchang was pretty much it was an integral part of the beginning of the year. So the beginning of the year, either you had a community hearing, which means a community celebration or community awareness of what the Panchang for the next year looks like, whether it was at the family level or whether it was making your children aware of what Panchang is and how to read it. But it was a very, very important tradition, which it seems is now prevalent only in Andhra Pradesh as a formal function. I'm not aware of any other place that follows. If you're aware, please do let me know. Then, very interestingly, I was reading Jyotish Kumbh by Gita Press, and I came across this phrase called "meen make nikalna." I mean, it's a very, very common phrase that we use in Hindi, which means nitpicking. You know, when somebody is doing too much of nitpicking, we say "meen make nikalna." And then I figured out that it actually referred to Meen and Mesh, which is Pisces and Aries, which actually says when you get too much into astrology and when you're doing too much of it, you know, like don't do too much of it. And then I was on Twitter, a lot of people gave me a lot of common proverbs or sayings which come from astrology and show how astrology was actually a very, very integral part of our lives and something that we've kind of forgotten, like Khadgashtak Hona, somebody who behaves like Shani, we call Shanichri or Dhaiya, Mangli Ladki Ladka, Bhadra jaise piche padna. There's an error here. Disha Shul mein yatra karna. I'm going to just show you the Disha Shul. Or it's saying Jaisi teri patadi, taisi meri khapadi. It says, the way your astrological chart is, that's how your mind is. Mavas ka janma, which means Amavas ka janma, somebody who's born on an Amavasya, or Mulon ka janma, somebody who's born under Mool Nakshatra. So people knew these basic common folks knew these traits, that if somebody is born under Mool Nakshatra, they will have some certain traits. Or if somebody is born on an Amavasya, they will have certain traits. Or Panchako ka Mara. Panchako ka Mara is still followed. They say if somebody is died during the Panchak, then there is a great possibility of more deaths in the family. Then Dasham Grahe ki Dasha, Umidon par Grahan Lagna. So these are some of the things that I found in Lokachar, how common knowledge. I don't know if they're documented somewhere, but I hope some of you take it up and document them.
Anuradha ji, Panchang Shravan is done even in Karnataka in all the mathas and all the temples.
Okay.
And I live in the US now, and all the Hindu temples here in the US do Panchang Shravan.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So it's very much alive.
Okay. But even then, outside of Karnataka and Andhra, I don't know. I haven't heard of.
I think Tamil Nadu also they do, and Kerala. I'm quite certain. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be great. I'll try and find out. But if there is somebody who can talk about this, I'll be happy to interview them.
I lived in Karnataka. I lived in Karnataka when I was in India for many years. So I know about Karnataka, but I don't know Tamil or Malayalam, but I've read.
In Karnataka, if there is somebody who definitely does it, and if
yes, the mathas. I lived in Manipal, Udupi, so all the mathas do it. The Sringeri Matha should also do it, and
they do it during Ugadi.
Yes. Shukla Paksha. Chaitra Masa.
Yeah, Ugadi is Yugadi. I mean, Ugadi comes from Yugadi, so it's the beginning of New Year. So,
right.
Yes,
they do it.
So I'll try and find out. So Karnataka should be easy to find out. I'll try and find out.
Yeah, actually, they do have online also now because of COVID.
Yes.
And I remember my relatives were sending the links last year.
If you can find one and share, that'll really help.
Sure.
Right? Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is a Disha Shul which says Som Shanichar Purav Na Chalu, which means on a Monday or on a Saturday you should not travel eastwards. Mangal Budh Uttar Dishi, that means on Tuesday and Wednesday you should not travel northwards. On Sunday and Friday, you should not travel westwards, and on Bife is Brahaspati, Guru, and on Thursday you should not travel southwards. So this is called Disha Shul. Very, very easy way to remember which directions you should not travel on a certain day. But very interestingly, I also found a way around, a remedy, if you can say. So it says if you have to travel on a Mangal, then you put dhania in your mouth, coriander. If you have to travel south on a Thursday, then eat a little bit of gur or jaggery and then go. If you have to travel on a Friday, then put some mustard seeds in your mouth and then go. So these are the remedies for that. Similarly, for wearing new clothes, if you have to wear new clothes, then you should wear them on Wednesday. Kapda pahire teen bari, Budh Brihaspat Sukravar, Hare Abre, Itwar Bhaddar ka hai, yahi vichar. Now, Bhaddar is somebody who has given lot of these two-liners in which he captures literally the whole prediction of rains and agriculture. So he has a lot of these two-liners, but I have picked up something which is relevant to all of us on wearing new clothes. So he says that you should wear new clothes only on 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And if it is really needed, then maybe on a Sunday. Other days you should not wear the new clothes. And when I shared it on Twitter, a lot of people shared. There's various variants of this, but the data remained same, which is what I found incredible. Everybody had the same data that yes, my grandmother used to say, don't wear new clothes on Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, or even Sunday. So this is something that we were living, and now we've kind of made it. Now it is making into these kind of presentations where we think this is interesting. Similarly, in terms of what you should eat, what you should not eat, a very simple health guide, if you can call it, what you should not eat. So in the month of Chaitri, you should not eat gur. In Vaishak, you should not eat tel. In Jyesht, you should not travel in the sun. In Ashad, you should not eat bel. In Savan, you should not eat sag. So every month has something that you should avoid eating. And it says if you follow this, you won't have to visit a doctor. Yeah, so that's it from my side. This is where you can connect with me. I'm pretty much available on social media platforms, and any questions or any feedback or anything that you want to add to what I said.
Anuradha, I just now found the link for Udpi Mata Panchang Shravan. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
So, but it's in Kannada. I was trying
I understand
to share
Kannada a little bit.
Oh, you do?
I do a bit, not completely, but I do understand.
I was trying to share it, but it didn't go. So I'm just telling you, it's easily available on YouTube.
Okay, I'll find that. Thank you so much. So what I wonder is that if they do it in mathas, but how many people visit the mathas? Which means it's
everybody. It's a temple matha. Udupi Krishna Temple matha. The matha is attached to the temple.
I know.
And they have crores of, lakhs of people come every year to visit.
I know, but for Shravana, Panchang Shravana, how many people would come now?
We used to go. My family used to go, and those days itself, it used to be crowded. Now I think it's even more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, somebody was saying something.
Yeah, I was saying something. I think that mapping of chakras to the cities was very fascinating. I was thinking about it. If we map it out on geographical, it's almost like a horseshoe kind of a thing, because Kanchi would be in the south, and then you start with Dwarka, and then you come back to Haridwar, I think, or right?
it becomes a kind of spiral. Most of the Jyotirlings and most of the things, they kind of become a spiral, and a lot of our yatras also happen in a spiral. So a lot of Kashi yatras that happen, they happen in a kind of spiral. So you start from outside and you keep moving inside till you reach the Bindu.
Oh, okay. Interesting. There is so much to learn and so much to read.
So much we don't know.
So much we don't know. Exactly.
You only learn what we don't know.
Yeah. Well, very fascinating. You have a course on Panchang as well, right?
Yeah. So I have a course on science behind Indian calendar, and it's a 4 to 5 hour course, 4-hour course basically. Okay. And I think I've already taught it to 1,000+ people, mostly children, okay. And they're fascinated. The question that repeatedly comes is that why are we not using this calendar?
Right.
And that calendar is pretty much the basis of all astrology.
Right, right. Yeah, I think we should bring that course over to this platform as well at some point. Okay. Well, yeah, no more questions. I'm just thinking.
Very fascinating, a beautiful presentation, Anuradha. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, this is just what I have gathered. I'm sure there is much more somewhere in my hard disks and somewhere in my mind, but I had just about 2 days notice, 2-3 days notice to do this. So this is all I could gather. I'm sure it's all lying scattered somewhere. I mean, like most knowledge, it's all scattered in various scriptures, in various temples, various things. It's a mammoth task to work on it. I mean, I'm just connecting what comes in my way. If anybody is interested, do read the Ayodhya Marc, my book, or Lotus in the Stone. I have brought a lot of connections into that book. A lot of connections that I found across in my journeys, I have brought there.
So Anuji, there is a very quick question I had. Given your so much of experience and learning in the temples, we always say there is a connection of Rahu temple is there, Sun temple is there, which when you go there, they talk about ask for the nakshatras before they.
Your screen froze, Meenakshi. Saurabh, are you able to hear Meenakshi?
Yeah, she's next room, so I can hear her, but okay. I'm asking her to come here and talk. Meenu, can you come here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically what I was asking Anuji is usually say Komilla ji travels at temples a lot, and she brings a lot of stuff from there, talking about how there is a Rahu temple available, there is a Ketu temple, there is a Sun temple, there is a connection of all of that to the Jyotisha. And also when you go there, they ask about your Ist Devata, and then there is a puja performed, which is sometimes there is also a puja performed with the 9 graha and all that, which means a lot to us. And those are the kind of things. There is a connection between doing the puja. If somebody is suffering through some problem in the Jyotisha, that's what we try to give the relief to. So do you have things to talk about those in terms of the kind of remedies which you see and the connection to Jyotish?
So like I spoke about Brihaspati Kund, there are tirthas like this spread across the country where you do. Just last night, I was reading a book on, it's a book on Tantra, but it talks about different tirthas being associated with different elements. I don't have the book right away. So for example, it talks about Kurukshetra being a Vayu Tattva, or Mahakal being a, I think, Akash Tattva. So there are different, so every Tirtha, like every planet, is associated with an element. It is associated with, there's a mapping. So is that mapping readily available? Definitely no. I mean, not to the best of my knowledge. If it's available somewhere in some astrology texts, I don't know. There are Sthala Puranas which capture it, but it's all scattered across. So, for example, Kashi has all the Navagraha temples. So I visited a temple. Let me talk about this temple called Chandra Kumbh or Chandreshwar Mahadev temple. Now, the priest there tells me that the temple was set up, and the Shivalinga there was set up by Chandra himself, and it predates Ganga. And there are a lot of things that predate Ganga in Kashi. And so for every Chandra related remedy, you can visit that temple. Now, the details of that, somebody has to sit and document how and what and everything. So, and most of the big Tirthalas would have all the 9 Graha temples. So Kashi definitely has. It has temples which are set up by all the 9 Grahas themselves, they say. I mean, it's believed by themselves, and all those temples exist. But every temple will have a Navagraha. I mean, a lot of temples have Navagraha temples, but that's more like, in fact, I remember the ancient Omkareshwar temple in Banaras, which is now a small Chotu temple inside a Kabristan. That's the only place where I have found Navagrahas along with their Shaktis. So not many of us know, like Neela is the Shakti of Shani, or Rahu's Shakti. I think I have a post on this on my Instagram, and I have listed all of that. So on my Instagram, in details, I am doing a series on temples. So if you go there and if you look for Omkareshwar temple in Kashi, you will find the details of all these Navagrahas listed there. And their Shaktis, which was related. Wow. Because I have never seen Shaktis of all the, I mean, we know Rohini and Chandra, but we don't know like the wives of all the other 7, 8 planets. We know Sun and Moon's Shaktis, but we don't know the Shaktis of other planets usually.
Very fascinating points. Yeah, because it's like there are a lot of connections, because primarily I was talking about with the chanting of the mantras and the rituals and how it affects the people's life. And I know in India those rituals has become a part of the people's life.
Yeah. So what a mantra does is it alters your energy in a certain way. It alters your basic flow of energy in a certain way. In fact, they say that mantra, devata, and guru, they are the same. A mantra is as good as a guru, and it's as good as a devata. And 3 are actually related.
Lovely. Any further question if the people have?
Anuradha ji, what's the best way to be in touch with you?
Any of these, indetails@gmail.com, or if you are on any social media, I'm pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
I like to connect with her on the Twitter a lot, and she is very promptly replying on Twitter. So you can give
wherever. Email. I mean, if you go on indetails.com, which is my website, all my data is available, and I have a lot of these stories on Indetails.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I'm currently studying silk, and silk clusters in India. I don't think I can speak right now, but I'm there. Even there, I'm finding a lot of these connections happening with temples. But I'll talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it.
Lovely. It was a very different presentation from what kind of presentation which we see in the Jyotish conference. So we were talking about our mind is blowing with all the tricks and the techniques which we talk about, the predictions and astrology, all the rules around. So obviously it was very nice. So very different from our normal circumstances. But this is quite fascinating. This is where we try to give the relief to people. Sending them to the temples, telling them to do the yag and do all different kind of mantras, and all the rituals are a part of it in India. So lovely. So do you want to do any concluding points before we go towards closing the session?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm saying, do you have any concluding points?
No. Thank you very much for patiently listening to me. I would be happy if all those people here can share their feedback or give their blessings. All of you are learned astrologers. Namaste Jitendra ji. आप mute हैं Jitendra ji.
नमस्कार एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच. आपने जो माहिती बताई वंडरफुल. अब मैं यही सोच रहा हूँ कब इंडिया जाए या सारे टूर करें. I am from
आप
Canada.
सब लोग आ जाइए, मैं लेके चलूंगी.
100%.
That would be fantastic with your narration and your analysis, and that would be fantastic to go on a yatra with you.
I hope that we revive that yatra traditions in India, because our yatra traditions are very deep, very fulfilling, and unfortunately we are just in the mode of copy pasting the Western models and making it shallow as possible, and reducing it to eat, drink, and be merry, forgetting that yatra can be the ultimate tool to get the anand that we are all seeking. It's absolutely. We keep saying that a lot of things that people do with tapasya and sadhana is something that happens naturally when you travel.
Yes.
Because people come and help you. You see, you're on your own. You establish connections. You start seeing things. Yatra is a tapasya in itself, and very easy way of doing tapasya. I hope we don't reduce it to just, unfortunately or incidentally, I live in Goa, and this is a place where everybody comes to get drunk and get drugged and, lie on the beaches. And it's very, very unfortunate. And it's a great land of Shiva and Shakti, and not many people visit it for that, but we're doing our part.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else, please do give your feedback. That helps us improve.
So any other question, or if people feel free to interact at this time. If you can just unmute yourself and talk. We'll go. If not, we'll go more towards closing the session, so that everybody gets like 10 minutes back. And tomorrow again from the 9 o'clock our session starts. So thank you, Anuj. Thank you for all of your blessings, all of this knowledge which came across to us. So Rani ji, I will request you to do the closing.
One quick thing before you go, Anu, that Shri Yantra that you see in the background for Jitenji, he has designed and made it himself. He knows how to.
I'm not sitting in front of it, but my puja room has a similar big one, and I got it from Nepal.
Yeah.
I hope I can learn to make it one day.
Yeah, I want Jitenji to do a class on how to make a Shri Yantra.
Next year when I come there, I will make it there.
Please do, sir. Please do, sir. Please do, sir.
Lovely. We will look forward to that. I know the steps though, but
yeah,
we never
I send
try.
it to you.
Yes. So Rani ji, back to you to be able to do that.
Sure, I'm like floating somewhere else. I'm so nostalgic for India. Thank you so much, Anji. It's beautiful work you're doing, and looking forward to more of your work. I'm going to get your books. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
From
Thank you so much.
Amazon,
actually,
we get the book.
All the books are there on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want, I can share a link where you can just click and get. Just give me 1 second.
I need a temple book.
Yes, you can simply download all of them. If you just go on Amazon and put my name, you will get all of them. Let me put it in the chat, but it's available just Google or just go on anuradhagoyal.com and you will see all the links and everything. Or on Amazon also, if you just say Anuradha Goel, you'll find it.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, just read the temple books, but also read Lotus in the Stone. Read if before visiting Ayodhya, read Ayodhya Mahatmya, because Ayodhya, fortunately, it still has most elements that are described in Skanda Puran. It still has most of those elements. Even Kashi has. If we don't do them away, it still has most of the things described in Kashi Khand of Skanda Puran. Dwarka also, I found almost everything that is described in Skanda Puran. Mathura also. Mathura, not many things I found, but a lot of things. So I'm studying these 7 cities basically, apart from other things. And Naimisharanya is another place which you should go, which is mentioned in every scripture. Every Puran, आप जैसे Puran उठाते हैं, तो the first thing it says is Naimisharanya, Sonak, and everything. It is very close to Lucknow. It's about 90 kilometers from Lucknow.
Okay. And it's still Aranya?
It's still called Naimisharanya. I have a detailed post on it. And they say 88,000 rishis used to do tapasya there. The forest is no longer there. It's still, they're making it a concrete jungle. But yes, that's what jungle
There is
means.
water pool around all this water pool, and people
there is a river, Gomati flows there.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
Gomati flows.
Yes.
That's the place where Vedavyas did all his work and all the rishis. So these are very, very interesting places. There is still energy that you can feel. There are a lot of ashramas. So In Details has a lot of my travelogues to most of these places. Right? Thank you. Thank you, Meenakshi.
So
Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Anuja.
Namaste.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.
Thank you, everyone who could join today, and we'll again continue with our session tomorrow. 9 a.m. Thank you.
Dhanyavad.
That was wonderful, Meenakshi. It's mute.
Yeah, I said she has a lot of knowledge about multiple things, and especially the connection which she talks about. All this Indian astrology which we try to learn, it's already there in a parts and parts of India.
It was part of life that time.
It was a part of life over there, and that's what she has studied. So it's like, we are studying from the books, we are, trying to look all of those, and it's already there somewhere, especially those nakshatras. If you see how people are like trying to understand from different places, and it's just there.
It's there.
So
it was part of everybody's life those days. Wow.
Yes.
I hope it gets revived. That Vedic way of living, that Jyotish way of living. Yeah. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you tomorrow morning.